For more on oil's forecasted lower movements, we're joined from Houston by Carl Larry. He's the president of Oil Outlooks and Opinions. Carl, good to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hi there. Very good to have you. Thank you.
All right, Carl, crude futures have already tanked 25% over the past 5 months. Goldman Sachs is slashing its 2015 forecast, saying crude will fall to $75 per barrel, Brent to $85. What do you think?
Well, I think it's very possible, and I think that the difference here now, at least this past year and going forward, is that there's so much more production that's online, especially in the U.S. They're thinking that by 2015 we'll be doing about 10 million barrels a day of crude oil here, and that's almost double than what we've seen in the past few years. And if OPEC keeps it 30 million, it's very likely we can see these prices continue to go lower.
So it is, as Goldman is saying, that rising production is outstripping demand. Now, you don't think that the global economic slowdown is also a factor here, or do you?
No, you're right. No, I don't. I think what's going on, though, is that the U.S. is the #1 consumer of oil, and then #2 would be China, then #3 Japan. But what's happening is that the increase in their demand is not meeting the oversupply of production, and so that's where it's becoming a little bit disconnected. Usually, OPEC is just going to keep pumping as much as they can because we haven't had another source of oil coming up. Right now, like I said, with the U.S. pumping nearly double what they used to pump or produce, that's where it's causing this disconnect. So as long as the economies are growing, it's still going to have a hard time catching up to all that production.
Carl, where do the geopolitical tensions factor in here? There's a lot going on amongst the biggest oil producers. Russia, for example, has the standoff over Ukraine, the sanctions involved there. Iraq and Syria, other big oil producers, are grappling with the ISIS issue. Iran, another OPEC member, is locked out of the market due to the nuclear sanctions. Why are these issues having such a muted impact?
You know, that's where we go right back to the U.S. again. Nobody saw this coming. If we were back in 2009 and somebody said that U.S. oil production is going to double within the next 4 or 5 years, nobody would have thought that was true. And now that's become true. And so it's given this big cushion to the oil market. So we've been pumping so much more oil, and it's increasing day by day, week by week, that all these geopolitical issues now are pushed aside because we have that spare capacity in the U.S. now, rather than in the oil countries like Saudi Arabia.
Carl, there was a big movement to have the U.S. become less dependent on foreign oil. Is this boom in shale gas and oil production having had that desired effect now?
It is, and it's a surprising one. I think that many people wanted it, but nobody expected it. And now that it's here, it's been taking a long time to figure out what that's going to mean for oil prices globally. Again, with America not bringing in as many imports as we used to and producing our own oil, it's made this major shift in the market where everybody, especially in OPEC, is scrambling to find the best next buyer. Well, and that right now is China, but that growth is still limited. Yes.
Carl, OPEC is meeting in November. Are you expecting them to take some action?
They're going to have to. It's almost a necessity at this point. Some countries can afford $80, $75 oil. Some countries can't. So it's going to be something where they're going to have to make a move soon.
Now, there's a conspiracy theory going around in the oil circles, Carl, that Saudi Arabia is in a way letting oil hit a bit of a free fall in order to dissuade the U.S. rivals from continuing with their gas and oil production. And that's a bit of a price manipulation conspiracy. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that the Saudis really have to manage their money also. It's very important that the Saudis have a very comfortable price, and it's not going to be much lower than what we're seeing here in the U.S., or at least a break even. I think oil prices in the U.S. around $75, $80 is right about where it needs to be to keep producing. And I think the Saudis are around that $70, $75 area also. They have a very big social reform program in place, and that needs to get paid.
Well, oil is significantly lower, about 50% lower from its all-time high. At what point is oil just too low?
I think around that $70 area, the $70, $75 area, I think that's when it gets to be a really bit of a pressure point. Because right now, a lot of consumers in consuming nations like the U.S. and China are benefiting from this, but at that point, it starts to get really, too deflationary, if anything.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much, as always, for your insight, Carl Larry, President of Oil Outlooks and Opinions.